My story is called When the Bombs Stop Falling, and it was inspired by the wartime testimonies of several people whose voices are recorded here at the archive, and I have to name them because I've taken odd little snippets of their dialogue. So Ben Sachs, James Elgar, Doris Cosgrave and Inga Munro. Okay, When the Bombs Stop Falling. Irene made a wish as her brother Jem carved the turkey. The war would end and father would come home from the war. The following Christmas, there was no turkey, and Jem himself had gone away to fight. Irene spent New Year's Eve outside, watching the searchlights pick out enemy bombers. A lorry turned into the street, pulling an anti-aircraft gun behind it. The soldier manning the gun let a long peal of rounds into the sky, and then the lorry sped on. Irene saw bombers gathering overhead. "Get inside," shouted her mother. "They think there's a gun emplacement here." They had a few seconds before the bombs hit. That spring, Jem came home for 3 days. "I'm going to design a tank that ends the war," said Irene. "It'll jump trenches, go underground, and swim through water." "Tanks are useless," Jem laughed. "Most of them break down the minute they're on the field, and the others collapse under fire." A tank testing centre opened up the road in Dollis Hill. Irene wanted to see if her tank could be made for real, so she waited until her mother went to sleep, took a butter knife for self-defense, and climbed up the hill. The centre was surrounded by watchtowers and wire. "What are you doing?" hissed the night guard. Irene started trembling. I wanted to see if there's a tank that'll win the war and bring my father back. He's a pilot. I made a wish last Christmas, the Christmas before last." Luckily, the guard was kind. "We've just the thing. Come with me," he said. In the warehouse was a massive metal tank. "That," said the guard, "is the Mark 9. One look at that and the enemy will surrender. What's more, it was made in your own backyard." Jem died in the war, and Irene heard nothing more about the Mark 9. Father sent letters home, written in pencil in a sloping hand, on porous pages torn from a notebook. Irene's mother sold her jewellery and house ornaments. Irene looked after the rationing book, keeping track of the points they'd used on tinned food and the weekly coupons for sugar, butter and bread. She dreamed of breakfasting on fresh eggs and sausages. No chance when the meat ration was 1 shilling per person per week. Irene's mother began work in the munitions factory, making shell cases for torpedoes. It was hard work for less than £2 a week. She and the other women built air raid shelters in the garden and laid sandbags over the top. Every day, the factory gave its workers a half-hour break. A local lady, Aunt Rose, collected ration coupons from the women, bought cheap cuts of oxtail and liver, and made tasty stews for everyone. "When you join together, things go further. It's the single people that struggle to survive on one ration," said Rose one lunchtime when Irene was helping her serve. Suddenly, they heard doodlebug engines overhead. "Don't worry," said Rose. "As long as you can hear the engine running, you're safe, because you know it's going to go past you." The engines cut out. They ran to the shelter. The doodlebugs went into a nosedive, and the neighbours at 74 and 76 Church Road got a direct hit. Then came the V2 rockets, which struck without warning. The houses crumbled on top of the shelter and trapped everyone inside for 2 days. Irene was evacuated to the seaside. She was allowed a change of clothes, her nightie and underwear, handkerchiefs, and a family photograph. She lived for letters from her parents. Her father addressed her as Fluff, her childhood nickname, and he wrote, "You are clearly getting some benefit from the sea air, and yes, I think you are putting on flesh if you are over 8 stone." Irene ran away, came to London, and visited the War Office. "I'll do anything," she said to the man behind the desk. "Civil Defence need messengers. Can you ride a bicycle?" "I'll learn," she said. "Then get yourself to Taylor's Lane, a place called The Hub." The Hub was an ordinary office at street level, but underground were dozens of operators wearing headsets, sitting at desks plugged with wires. "It's a telephone exchange," explained the woman, showing Irene around. "We take incident calls and send help. Heavy rescue, light rescue, and ambulances. If the lines are down, we use messengers. That's you." Irene crossed the city, pedaling wherever she was sent to deliver messages. Gradually, she made friends with the ATS girls, young women from the Auxiliary Territorial Services. "We need someone from the quartermaster department, like wardrobe. You'd be giving us our shoes and socks," said a Lancashire girl called Sally. On her first day, Irene found everyone lined up outside the nurse's office. "Head inspection," said Sally. "They're saying we've got lice, especially us from industrial parts." Nurse is a snob. She thinks we live in a hovel, sleeping 5 to a bed. The common room stank of chemicals, and the girls sat about glumly, wearing towel turbans soaked in head lice treatment. "We'll be like this for 3 days," said Sally. "It'll all go grand till we go on home leave and come back just as lousy as before." In the last and bloodiest year of the war, Irene became an ambulance driver. She attended a midnight hit on Neasden Sheds, where the carriages of the new Metropolitan line trains were kept. Then another call came through. "String of bombs at Stone Bridge. The turning's demolished from one end to the next. Nothing's left." When Irene was 20, her childhood wish finally came true. The war did end, and her father did come home. Irene's mother opened a shop, and her father became a local mayor. They died of old age. Irene inherited her mother's business. She never married and lived in the same flat all her life. After she died, there was a house clearance. In a shoebox, next to her dentures and plastic rollers, was a bundle of letters addressed to Fluff.